One of the important things for us in F3 is to not leave any man behind. And when we lost Cardinal, we knew that we couldn't leave his family behind. So we had to step up and stand in that gap.
The difficulty and the hardship that we went through that morning really did something to draw us together. And what we realized is that's what happens every morning in F3 across the world, where that's happening. Guys are coming together, doing hard things, doing difficult things together. And that brotherhood, because of the support that you need, does something to someone's life. And we want that for every man in this nation.
Welcome to In Cadence, Season 1, Episode number 8. Welcome to PAX everywhere listening. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Ken, I'm 51, and in the gloom, the PAX call me Shredder.
And I'm Keith, 43, and the PAX call me Flea. And our epic guest today is...
Hi everyone, I'm Ben, 39, Toffee.
Welcome, Toffee. Well, we have a bit of an issue really because we can't play the name game with you tonight like we would like to, because as soon as I saw your name, I was like, I think I know what's going on there. And obviously Flea knows because you guys post together, don't you? So, yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more in due course, but we're going to crack on with our Warhammer.
Yeah, excellent. First question we normally ask our guests is, if you were made into an F3 exercise, what would it be?
If I was made into an F3 exercise, I'm going to go with a 6-point burpee. I think it looks easy, but once you do a few in a row, you realize it's pretty hard. And I think what I like about the burpee is when you start sticking in the exercises in something like a ladder, kind of climbing up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, back down again, it just becomes really relentless. What I tried to do with my F3 game is make it relentless, so that at the end of a session people are gassed. So I'll go with a burpee, gets you gassed.
Classic. And yeah, I agree with you. They are hard, especially if you mod up the burpees as well and do the jumps at the end, or do mountain climbers halfway through as well. So yeah, nice.
Well, everybody knows I'm a bit of a burpee fan, so I like that. I like to kind of get this sense of what you love and what you hate, and get you to share something. So what's your strongest, most favourite exercise? I mean, it doesn't have to be what you just said. It could be something else.
Yeah, I'd say my strongest exercise is probably Merkins. I think Merkins is one of those things that probably guys have been doing their whole life from when you're a little kid, and you're with your dad or something, and he's like, go on, do a press up. And so you just do a press up. I know we'll come on to more of this later, but I joined F3 around February. But around June, I did the Cancer Research UK 100 press ups a day challenge. And it really inspired me around Merkins, and actually about a new respect that I found for them when I did that challenge. Suffice to say, doing 100 a day for 30 days makes it a strong exercise for you. And I think that challenge also kind of made it a favorite exercise once I started learning about variations and things like that.
What about your hated, weakest exercise?
A hated exercise for me would probably be jump lunges or alternating jump lunges. F3 name, anyone?
Bonnie Blair's, which is also, I think, Safari's worst exercise, if I remember right from previous episode. I think he said he hated them as well. No, I hate them too.
First of all, I mean, it's a hard exercise. I think legs is always a weakness for me. I think it's probably a weakness for a lot of people. But just with that jump lunge, it's technical. You've got to get the technique right. I always end up hurting myself, like pulling something in a different part of my hamstring or the side of my hip or my quad or something. I always pull something, and then I'm thinking about trying to take it easy on the exercise, and instead of just doing the exercise. And I think, again, that just takes away from it for me.
Do you find yourself quite narrow? Because, I remember finding myself quite wobbly, and someone saying, you need to be much more train tracky. Kind of, you're jumping like that as opposed to like that.
Do you know, now that, as you said it, I was thinking about my mindset when I'm doing the exercise, and my mindset is quite a bit of an OCD mindset. So, things need to be in straight lines. The body needs to be tight and operating in this tight space. And that idea of kind of, almost creating a wider base laterally as you kind of come out with the legs, it makes complete sense. But I don't think I ever do it. And I think in the heat of the moment, my nature takes over, and I go with the tight, compact forward and back, and trying to feel like, so I'm almost making perfect the enemy of good in that situation.
Cool, thank you.
Now, and I think I know the answer to this, but I do get the luxury of posting with Toffee a couple of times a week. I know that you like using music in BDs. What's your go-to for music in terms of style or exercise using music? What's your thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I love to use a bit of music in BDs, but I also balance that. I'm very conscious about balancing that. I definitely do some BDs without music deliberately. And also I try and, I make sure not to overuse it in the BDs that I use it in. So first of all, I think a lot of us like a little bit of Tabata, and it's a lot more fun doing Tabata rather than just beep, beep, 20 seconds, beep, a little bit of music. I think as well, if you throw in a Tabata as your second thang after a first thang, which has been a grueler for the packs, I love to finish the first thang and just say, right, guys, this is the end of the first thang. So come on, leave it all on the table. And then when we hit Tabata, I try to do 2 rounds of Tabata. First round is kind of giving, not a rest, but letting them ease back into a high energy. And the second round, throwing in something like jump lunges or mountain climbers. So something really that you can really push hard. And the music just elevates the packs. And I've had that feedback in the sessions as well. I think I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That's my second Tabata song. And that song, when you're on a night out with the guys and that song comes on somewhere in a club, there's a vibe. And it's the same in the BD. You put that song on for Tabata and the energy level just raises a notch. So I love that song coming on in BD. I will sometimes put music on if I've got like a long grueling thing. I like to experiment with the set pieces. I'm sure we all do. I've kind of, I'm not going to say I've developed this set piece, but I've certainly been using this set piece with 12 stations for the hours of a clock and different things at station. And one of the things I like about it is because it's 12 different exercises and do incremental reps up. So start at 1, go all the way around, then go to 2 all the way around. Having some energetic dance type music on. I am a dance music fan. I'm originally from Liverpool, so that's my background. But having some energetic music on through something like that, I think, again, it just elevates people to kind of put a little bit more in. And there's a lot of research around music being like the effects on the brain, kind of a painkiller in certain circumstances. It does have physiological effects. So I'm sure there's some research out there that says it can help push people on to really push when they need to grind and get a little bit more grit towards their workout.
It certainly helped me during that bear crawl clock that you did at the mansion that time. Yeah, still have nightmares about that one.
That was a
bit of
grueler.
bear crawling. Can't beat them. It's one of those things, isn't it? Get the music going. What works? I like you were saying about silence. I saw on Back Blast the other day. Was it Westy or Sage? Somebody did a silent workout all the way through. Those packs are on our band in the UK. Have a look for that because I think Westy did the whole thing without a word. He gave instructions through sign, and it's only this week just gone, so packs you wouldn't have trouble finding it, and it creates different challenges, doesn't it? But yeah, the music's good.
I was going to come to you, Shredder, actually. What's your BD song to go to? Because I know you've experimented with a few over the last couple of months.
Yeah, well, I've got some new mashups to try, so I'm currently waiting to use a Bee Gees AC/DC mashup and Metallica and Stevie Wonder mashup there on my next 2 to do. This week, I used Deftones Change, and I did it because I wanted to help our packs who are going to Valor to prepare. I wanted to recognize the change that they're going through. But in that longer setting, it's a bit lazy, but I found a 30-minute Rocky montage that's on YouTube. And you know, some of us older packs, we kind of get this Rocky thing, and you hear the different bits of Rocky, and you're thinking, oh, this is 1 and this is 3, and now we're gonna fight Drago, and so I've done that. But I totally agree with you about trying to push a Tabata with some intensity, and have a Tabata for Aerosmith's Jump. And that actually might work really well for some of the things that you're talking about with lunge jumps, or, you know, Bonnie Bears and mountain climbers. That would really that would hurt, man. So yeah, I just love music. I mean, it's in our souls, right? It's part of who we are, I think, as people.
For that final Tabata blast, for me, my go-to is The Final Countdown by Europe. There's a Tabata version of that, which is on various music platforms. So that's my go-to.
This reminds me one of these mashups I have, because the Metallica one is Sad But True mixed up with Stevie Wonder's Very Superstitious. I have a Final Countdown mashup with Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit, so I need to send that to you.
Yes,
because you might find some fun with that. I found some the other day and I was like, oh, you're coming into my music collection. I need that in my life, because that kind of refills the juice bottle before you just smash it. So like you say, Toffee, and just gas it and leave them empty. Yes. Well, talk to us about how you came into F3. Tell us about the journey of you starting, Toffee.
Yeah, journey of me coming into F3. It depends, where do you want to start? I mean,
it's your barbecue, bro.
It's my barbecue. My whole life, I've been, my early life, fit and healthy guy. Through my teens, carried that fitness and health into my 20s. You know, as a teenager, was at my prime, probably at 18. Football, rugby, tennis, triathlons, cross country, track and field, 1500, 800, 400 meters. Got to uni and just started drinking, started partying. At that time, I loved to be the life and soul of the party, all that kind of stuff. Tried to carried that through into my 20s. Started hitting late 20s, and it all started catching up. I wasn't doing the exercise anymore. The weight started piling on. The mental health that goes with that sense of identity. I've always seen myself as this type of guy, almost like a stereotype of the sporty guy who who parties, kind of thinking of like American Pie movies and things like that. But, came back to Leeds in around 2016, and I met Flea in a cafe in Headingley, a French cafe, and we probably met each other at that cafe about 5 times before. I can't remember which one of us struck up the courage to say, should we swap phone numbers, and we became friends. And I think that speaks a lot to what we hear in F3 as well. But over that time, I'm sure Flea won't mind me saying, Flea was kind of a bit overweight.
I think very was the word, mate, not a bit, very.
I had a mental thing in my head, and it's not like it was a constant thing, but out of my, you look at your mates around you, and I thought, okay, I'm fitter than Flea. And then there came a point kind of in the last few years where, that had been the case. There came a point probably around the turn of this year, and I started to look at Flea and see the changes in him. Flea had been going to F3 since August last year, 2024, when it was set up in Leeds. And I was looking at Flea and I was thinking, do you know what? I don't know if I am fitter than him anymore. What's changed? And it was almost like his transformation inspired me to ask him what was going on. He asked me many times before that stage, come over to Crossgate to the factory. We're doing this amazing thing. And I always said, are you kidding? Getting up at 5 a.m. I'd have to get up at 5 to get over there for 6. Not happening. But it's almost like the relentlessness of his transformation. It got to me. And I just said, you know what? I've got to go. So 30th of January, it's stuck so strongly in my head. Again, I think he'd asked me in the new year, are you sure you don't want to come? Obviously, now I realize he was EHing me. Been working on me for a while. And I wouldn't say I broke, but it was just the right moment with the kind of seeing his transformation. And seeing where I was as well, and everything came together, and I turned up at that session on the 30th of Jan in the cold and the rain and the damp on the floor, and not with a bunch of guys, didn't know what to expect, anything like that. But that's what brought me in.
I've got lots of questions. I've
Go
got
on
lots
then,
of
dig
questions,
in.
even though
Dig in.
even though I probably know the answers, to be honest. But I think it's good to explore them. I think that you made a good point though about that meeting in that cafe. I think we were both at a time where we were in a city where we didn't know many people, and okay, granted, it was about 10 years ago. I was still in my early 30s, and you were just turning 30, I guess. But yeah, still didn't have that social circle. Missing quite a lot of daily interaction. Just so for me, going to those French lessons was to get out of the house and do something and just interact with people. Yeah, there was a time in my life where I needed to make those more male connections. Because, you get into a relationship and you get focused on that one person, and you lose track of those around you. Yeah, and I needed to network out, and I wish I had known about F3 back then. And I think Gus summarised it very well in the last podcast, Shredder, didn't he? When he said it's not, how did he phrase it? It wasn't explicitly asking people or telling people they should come to F3. It's them seeing the changes in you that's sometimes the biggest factor in them making a decision about taking that jump and coming for the first time. And I think that's probably happened with you, didn't it, Toffee, where you say you saw what the benefits I was having in terms of my fitness and getting that regular posting done. The diet was in control, and there you go. The magic happens.
Because you'd done October through to January at that point.
4 months ahead, effectively.
Yeah.
But yeah, very, very overweight, and now things are a bit more under control, but still could be improved, if you know what I mean. So it's an ongoing battle.
But it's not one you have to face on your own, is it? And that's one of the
exactly. No, we're all in
that's one of the benefits. However we do it, the only thing we do on our own. This is the thing. Like if you're listening and you're still thinking about whether you should do an F3 workout, the hardest bit and the only bit you do on your own is writing that hard commit. Once you've done that and you've said I'm coming, then everything else we do together. That's good, especially on those days where some crazy Q wants to gas you with, I've got a feeling, woohoo, tonight's going to be a good night.
Catch your mind back then to the 30th of January, 9 months ago. Do you remember exactly what happened at that first session? Do you remember who your battle buddy was, for example?
I couldn't forget my battle buddy because it was my real buddy, Flea. I think a lot of that session is a blur, if I'm being completely honest. I didn't realise when I turned up for that session that I was walking into what I walked into. And by that, what I mean is I think one of the words I'd use for F3 is it's storied. It's steeped in mythos and lore, and kind of things have meaning when they happen. But I think we spend so much of our lives going through things that are almost meaningless a lot of the time, that when I stepped into F3, I didn't think to myself, remember this moment. It's a momentous moment. It's your first BD in F3. That wasn't what I was thinking. I was like, I've got no idea really what I'm turning up to. Flea's just told me to turn up. So it is a bit of a blur, but I know Flea was my battle buddy. I remember the Q was a guy called IT Guy, and I remember that one of the defining things that sticks out to me from the Q was his word at the end, and it was about resilience, and he talked about the astronaut Tim Peake. And I think isn't it quite funny that we say, we hook guys in with the first F on the fitness, but the thing that I really remember from that session was the word about this astronaut that I'd never heard of, and about resilience, which obviously I have heard of. And I just liked how, I like to think about stuff, and I liked how there was this extra layer to what I'd just done. I'd just done a fitness session and could have done that anywhere, but then I'm getting this almost motivational speech at the end, which really did, and he didn't warn me about any of that. I think quite rightly, and it made an impression. It made such an impression that straight away something clicked, and I knew that this was going to be something I was about to invest in. I went out and I bought myself 3 pairs of shorts, three different tops, the skins to where I knew I was going to be coming to 2 or 3 sessions a week. I went out and invested in a sports watch because I like my metrics and I like my data. So I knew that I wanted to start to track what I was about to embark on. So I remember how that session made me feel, and I remember some key parts from it, but I couldn't tell you what exercises we did. I couldn't tell you, that we ran somewhere. I remember that we were in the basketball court. We were still at that stage of the winter where you're not on the grass. You're in the basketball court because of the frost and the snow and things like that. But yeah, that's what I remember from it.
Yeah, it was IT Guys VQ, actually, that one. So he's one of our fitter packs, probably top 3 in the region, I would say, in terms of natural athletic ability. So he did pitch it hard. And I was gassed as well from that. It was a great session. It's a great word as well at the end.
Did the Q challenge from the 12 to the 6. So he clearly did. Good. And you had 3 pairs of shorts, and I think up by you, sometimes you want all 3 on at once, right?
Including the tights, as Gus calls them.
There's nothing wrong with a good pair of tights, right?
We've all got them.
Yes, we do. And they're for exercise only. One of the packs from Gus, A.O. Crocker, does a lot of AMDRAM. And a few days ago, he leads some really creative sessions. And I always get a bit sort of FOMO'd because they're midweek, obviously can't often go. But he did a kind of BD, and he'd sculpted a number of pieces of musical theatre into it. And I asked him where the time warp was. And he said he was this close to putting the time warp in. And I'm just saying, it's a good song because it's got the moves. Is just jump to the left and step to the right. You bring your knees in tight. Anyway, to where we are now. Thank you for sharing that. That's really personal, and I know we appreciate it. Like I said earlier, we know why you're called Toffee. But inform our awesome audience about the epic origin of your name.
Just give people 1 second to just think themselves. Why am I called Toffee? Is it because I really like sweets? Or is it, I was trying to think off the top of my head, where's a famous place that makes toffee, but I can't. Am I from that place? No. For anyone that hasn't guessed it yet, I'm an Everton fan. You might be able to hear a little bit of a tint in my accent. I left Liverpool when I was 18. I came to Leeds. Since then, I moved to Nottingham. I moved to London. I moved back to Leeds in 2016. That's when I met Flea. My accent is all over the shop. I don't even know what my accent is anymore. My dad is a massive Evertonian. I think he's 78 now. He's been going since the 50s when he used to go in what they call the Boys' Pen, now called the Gladys Street at Goodison Park, or should I say it was called the Gladys Street. Very emotional kind of time for us Blue Nose Evertonians with moving out of the grand old lady, as we call it. So there's a lot of tradition around a club like Everton. It's one of the founder members of the Premier League. And obviously you can probably tell from me talking, I'm a big Everton fan. I've been a bigger Everton fan when I was younger. I had season ticket. There was one season me and my dad went to every single game, home and away. Special times. One of the things us Evertonians say as well is it's character building, supporting a team like Everton. And I'm sure there's a lot of teams out there as well that have the same thing. But I remember kind of 1994 playing against Wimbledon. Someone had to lose and we had to win, and we were 2-0 down at half time, and then we won. I think we won 3-2. Some interesting goals went in from Hans Sager, the Wimbledon goalkeeper. People might remember he got done for match fixing. Not saying he got done for match fixing at that match, but so I carry Everton with me wherever I go, whether that's sad or not, I don't know. And I've got my Everton hat, and I've got some other Everton gear, and this was 30th of January. It was time to wear a hat. And in terms of like sports hats and things like that, I haven't got very many, but I have my Everton one, and I popped that on. And when the guys asked me at the end to talk about a little bit about myself, being from Liverpool is a big part of my identity. Whenever I tell someone that I'm from Liverpool, I always have to caveat with, but I support Everton. So, that's the way that went. And you can imagine what the packs, the packs went the way that they went.
I mean, the good news is, I say this because I told you I'm Everton fan as well. The good news is we signed Pickford again today, so that's not a bad thing. He's not a bad pair of hands, is he? How's your dad feeling about the new stadium? How's that for him? Because that's got to be challenging after all that time.
I think, yeah, moving to the new stadium's been a challenge for everyone. As much as logically every Evertonian knows we had to make a move, we had to make a change. A lot of the times in life are like that, where you know in your head something needs to change, but kind of your heart, so many memories, so much history.
Yeah.
Your heart is in a place, and so I think my dad, like a lot of Evertonians, bittersweet is the word.
Yeah.
Bittersweet. So if we could get maybe some bittersweet toffee made, that might kind of be topical.
Salty treacle.
Salty treacle.
I would at least say the silver lining was the fact that when we ended the season, it wasn't in relegation, and the Moisai was the manager, and I lamented that he was so good that Man United took him and then treated him like dirt.
And a lot of people like to hate on football, and I get it. It's 22 guys kicking a pig's bladder around a football field and getting paid ridiculous amounts of money and all that kind of stuff. But I think, football has been on the edge of a lot of social development in history. It's kind of, you look at things like the kick racism out of football. And now I think, with women's football does a lot for society in terms of moving us forward and moving us into different places. And I think a manager like David Moyes, he's a manager that you can look at, and you can really identify strong values there. And I think that's what a lot of Evertonians really like about David Moyes, is that we respect his values and we see him as a straight shooter. And so, there's something there about looking for things that are around us that are kind of embodying some of the leadership principles that we can learn from ourselves. And for me, I would say, things like that have had a big impact on me in my life as well, from that perspective.
There's definitely a community in the positive elements of football life, which perhaps speaks to the need that some men have. And that's perhaps where some people get their satisfaction, isn't it? We get it round the cafeteria, Circle of Trust, and the Gassy BD, and some of them are getting it with their pie and their pint and their chance to shout derogatory things at Liverpool when you play them. So, Toffee, can you kind of mosey us through the way you've gone from simply being a PAX through the prep stage and to the point where you came to plant the stocks 4th of June this year, right?
Turned up to that first BD January, knew that I was going to be getting very involved in F3 as a PAX, working out. But the only sites in Leeds were on the other side of the city centre for me. So it was basically a minimum of a half-hour trip over. So it kind of really meant getting up around 5 o'clock to get ready, leave the house, and get over to the other side of Leeds. 3 sites in Leeds, 2 on the east side, the original, the factory at Cross Gates, and then the mansion at Roundhay Park. And I very early on said to Flea, I love this, I'm going to keep coming, but for the rest of my life, coming across Leeds every 3 times a week through rush hour traffic on the way back, trying to get back for work, it's a big ask. I can certainly do it and invest in it for the time being, but I'd love to get something set up on the other side of Leeds. And to a little bit to my shock, Flea was like, yeah, that sounds great. Whenever you're ready, we'll get it set up. So I'm thinking, what's going on? I don't understand. Like, surely, you'd be like telling me, hold your horses, slow down. You can't set up your own site. We've got to set it up, and there's got to be management committee and blah, blah, blah. At that stage, I didn't really know about F3, didn't understand some of the principles behind it, hadn't ever heard the term freed to lead, but very, very quickly started to learn about those type of things, and really supportive from Flea, really supportive from Sage, the Nantan at that time in the West Yorkshire region, or was the Yorkshire region, but I'm sure we'll come on to that in a bit. So it was always part of the plan from very, very early on to set up a site on this side of Leeds. the side of Leeds, I live in Pudsey, which people tend, it's one of those places, it's a small place in Leeds, but people tend to have heard of it, probably because of Pudsey the bear. But I live in Pudsey, and near Pudsey, and we've got Bramley and some other areas, and the site's actually set up in Bramley. So even though I'm Pudsey, it's set up in Bramley. It felt like the right spot for the site, in terms of catchment area, location, ease of use, kind of this idea of, it's the first one, where can we go that's, not going to be too much hassle. Options around Pudsey kind of raise other potential issues, kind of from one area that's almost kind of can be gated off. So can you get in there and all that kind of stuff? Another area, kind of a good central location, but it's surrounded by a lot of houses and things like that. So do we want to be dealing with noise complaints when we're just trying to get things off the ground? So the Bramley site, we recce'd it, just offered the perfect kind of place, low hassle, low maintenance. We can get something going here and build numbers, and then think about potentially, wasn't thinking this at the time, but as we got closer to launching the stocks on the 4th of June, we're even at that stage thinking, oh, where's next?
It's quite encouraging when you get people that will just walk alongside you and help you find that. And I think when somebody's looking at a new place, you've looked at some of the important questions, like how is it going to be perceived? What's it going to be like in terms of noise and access? And actually, there's terrible issues in the UK, isn't there, with north-south bias and all of these things. In terms of 30 minutes is doable, isn't it? You can do it for a season. And I'm glad you I felt like doing it gave me some sense of tenacity, of stickability. Did that relate for you in that sense of you got the gear, but then you had to keep doing the HCs? Did that help you?
Yeah, it's really interesting that you kind of raised that point in that question. And I mean, I'm tempted to actually say it's almost like it was scripted, but it wasn't scripted, so people don't think that. But the reason I say that is because something, after I finished talking about kind of the journey from HCing at the original sites and then setting up the stocks, what I wanted to add, which I'd kind of forgotten, was I still go over to the factory. I still go over to the mansion, like regularly. I still queue at both of those sites. And I remember Flea told me about the convergence in Birmingham, and it wasn't even a question in my mind that we'd have to get up at 3 a.m. to get over there. It just became part of the habit. It became getting up early and going to work out became such a draw. I got such value from it that it wasn't even a question that I would go to Birmingham. It's not a question that I get up and that I HC and get up and go to the other side of Leeds. I genuinely think that if we hadn't set a site up in Bramley, I would still go over to the factory and the mansion, because that's the value that I get out of it. It's a really powerful kind of thing to see, because you can see how I started off thinking this isn't sustainable, I can't do this, and just the sheer force of nature of F3 and what the benefits that I get out of the sessions as a guy just would keep me coming back across Leeds if that's what I needed to do.
So in F3's leadership development program, ultimately we're a leadership movement that happens to do workouts. Failure is called our greatest teacher. Have you got any examples that you're willing to share of where you've potentially failed in your ambition or your targets, and what that's helped you learn about yourself and your leadership approach?
Yeah, I'd agree as well with the F3 approach on failure. Failure is a great teacher. I'm quite lucky, actually, the way I was brought up. I was brought up to just go and do something, just go and do stuff. And if you mess it up, it's not the end of the world. You'll move on. I'm very close to some people that had a different type of upbringing. And I can see in them sometimes the fear of trying new things and how it holds them back. If you've tried 1,000 things and failed 800 times, it just becomes normal. It doesn't become the end of the world. If you're scared to try stuff and you've only tried 100 things and you've failed 80 times, maybe that feels a bit different, or maybe the numbers are off there, but you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying. For myself, am I allowed to give an example from pre F3? So I think kind of, I talked about my journey into F3 and that slowing down in life around the late 20s and weight going on, and things were happening for me at work as well. And I think some of those things at work precipitated, my own kind of mental health journey that I've been on. And some of it was around, at work, kind of taking on new responsibilities that were probably above my abilities at that time. I think being a guy that says yes to a lot of stuff, you kind of find yourself in situations, maybe sometimes things that you can't handle. And so I did bite off more than I could chew at work, and I think ultimately I kind of went down a road of getting really stressed out and starting to question my abilities in everything that I was doing, and ultimately ended up spending some time off work because of that. That was a time, when I would describe myself as having depression, and I was kind of taking medication and that kind of stuff. That's probably, kind of a time in my life where I was at my lowest and almost one of my greatest failures, so to speak. And I suppose coming out of that, I've done a lot of reflection over the years, and it's not something that I moved on from quickly. It's not like that was 2 years ago, I'm fine now. It's a ramp coming out of something like that. And the learning and the reflection that I've done on it has also been a ramp. So I would say, kind of maybe the first couple of years, I look back and I had one perspective on it and one view, and the learning was quite one-dimensional. And then over the years, as I continue to look back and re-reflect and that kind of thing, the learning becomes more layered. So a lot of that learning was around not trying to control things so much, not trying to micromanage things, and having ambitions and expectations set around a certain outcome that I think I need to achieve, and almost being a little bit more laissez-faire with my approach and standards. I mean, particularly one of the interesting things I think I reflecting on my leadership style through that is I was the kind of leader that sets a high standard for myself. I'm in at 8 o'clock and I don't leave till 6, and kind of I do an amazing job with everything I do. And I set that standard for myself, fine, but then I projected it onto other people. And there is a type of leadership style called that. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I think it's pace setter or something like that. You're setting the pace, but the flip side of it is that it can become quite toxic. And I think when I look back, I'm almost a little bit embarrassed about some of the conversations that I had with people around me thinking I was motivating them to achieve higher levels of standards and performance, and probably in my head at the time thinking like, I'm such a good leader, I'm helping these guys to push themselves and progress. And actually when I look back, I'm a little bit embarrassed to think that some of the things that I put forward and portrayed, and actually I think on reflection it's actually quite a toxic way to lead people. So for me, kind of it's all linked into that crashing down of my life that happened, and I think some of that leadership failure was part of it, and other things were part of it. But wow, the learning from it all, and I don't know where I get it from, but I'm quite a reflective person, and I do feel lucky that, because I think, what if I went through my life and I don't ever have that reflection, and I didn't realize, and I just stayed like that? Maybe ignorance is bliss for some people, and actually you see a lot of people sailing through life and don't seem to have a care in the world. Some of those people aren't damaging anyone else, but some of those people are, or having negative impacts, or and I just think maybe as high impact males, we're going to have an impact on people where we go. And I think just simply being a high impact male is one thing, but it's in what way are you impacting on people? Is it positive or negative? Is it for the greater good, or is it kind of something more toxic? And if we generate the power to impact on people, then I think we've got to be really conscious of what that impact looks like and how it flows through to other people. Because I had that experience of thinking that I was doing a good thing, and then I look back and realize that it wasn't a good thing. But now I've learned from it and I do things differently.
Can we have an extra hour now just to unpack that response? Is that okay?
I've got So many questions. But
Right,
yeah, go ahead, Shredder,
right.
please.
I mean, look, there's part of me wants to come and hug you, and there's lots of things I'd like to say to you, not on camera, to be honest. I think, we're getting in a better place in the world where men are able to talk about mental health. And when I had PTSD and anxiety, I kind of went through a period afterwards where I went, oh my goodness, I'm a basket case. And then I kind of found that I was given permission by a few people to say, I've had a mental health issue. I've had a breakdown. And, coming into where we are in terms of F3, one of the beauties of the wonderful design of the fact that this is always a rotating leadership is because failure is this key component of our learning. I think we need to quantify what that means, because you want to learn from failure, but not if you design car tires and you're testing them on real people's cars. So it's about where you have the chance to fail, and we give people this safe space. And I think we don't know about the values of the company that you worked for, but it is quite likely that some of the burden for the failures that you had in that world come down to that company's bad leadership overall. You are still relatively young, but when you were leading something when you were even younger, you have, the old-fashioned term is vim and vigor, isn't it? You have passion, and sometimes that makes you arrogant, and sometimes you keep that even when you're older. But hopefully, as you get older, you get a bit more tempered and you get better, hopefully, if you've learned from experience. But I think the fact that you feel some sense of embarrassment about some of these areas is actually a very positive sign of actual growth, of going, you know what, I was an idiot there, or I thought I was motivating people, but I was just being, I was being a prat. And sometimes we don't know, Do you know what? Sometimes in a queue, you could be queuing in a place where people have been around the hills more than, that we might care to mention. And you're sort of mansplaining, like you were just talking about how much you love a merkin, mansplaining merkin to a man who's done a million. And if there's love, because this is what this is supposed to be about, this is about finding this place where in the middle of everything, we love people too much to leave them where they are and to leave them behind, then you've got that room to try and experience and experiment and lead without a real judgment. I made some notes here. I mean, I need to say something to you at some point about the layers of perception of struggles, because I think what you're expressing there in terms of the way you see things, I think as you just like in a sunrise, if we were all to see a sunrise in slightly different places, we'd experience it differently. And if you move around, as you move around from mental health issues, I think your perspective changes because you've moved, and that layers, like you said. But the other thing I wrote down to say to you is about Thomas Edison. Don't know how much you've ever looked at Thomas Edison, but he's stunning when it comes to looking at failure. He was kicked out of school because they said he was a thicko. And then he learned how to make ticker tape machines and had a printing press on a train till he burned a train down. And it just had litany after litany of failures. And then when he decided to make a battery, he had 63,000 experiments before he had a stable cell. And each time it went wrong, he went, okay, that doesn't work. Let's find what works. And at the age of about 63, this is to summarize a whole life in minutes, his factory burned down. And my understanding is the next day he called all of the workers who kind of go, well, this is crap. And he said to them, right, we're all signing new contracts. Tomorrow we're building. He said, all that stuff there is gone. Most of it probably never would have worked. Let's go and find what works. And I quite often would talk to school kids about him, because I feel like the younger we can help people to learn to express themselves and to try things without fear of, listen to somebody today who was supposed to go through a grade, and they were afraid to go because they thought they hadn't practiced enough. And I said, but by the very act of doing it, you're practicing more. But what happens if I'm not good enough? And I'm like, you're growing by trying. And you've been going through a lot of trying, and honestly, holy smokes, you said a lot then. And I just think that's a precious gift. You got more questions on that, Flea?
Again, several, but I just want to point to the fact, is that virtuous leadership is having the courage and the strength to ask for feedback and to ask for opinions. From the guys you're either queuing for or you're working with or you're managing, ask for that feedback, because if it's coming from a continuous improvement mindset, and again, as you said, Shredder, with love, that's
Right.
what runs through all of this. If it's there with positive intent, please give me some feedback, guys, no matter how bad it is, so that I can do a better job for you, to serve you. Bring it on. I want my next queue to be better. I want you to be going away from the next one going, oh yeah, that was much better than the last one. He listened and he's engaged. He's working with us. He wants to support us. Whether that's in your work, your day job, or in the gloom at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, doesn't matter. The approach is still the same.
And that's like all of this queuing stuff. Really, this is Mr. Miyagi, isn't it? You're kind of sand the floor and paint a fence, and you're doing chaos merkins or 6-point burpees or lunge jumps with a twist. But it's not really about those things. It's about you growing. So actually, the world benefits more from a full flavor toffee.
Title of your podcast.
Full flavored.
Full flavor
toffee. That could be the title of his OnlyFans account, couldn't it? Full flavor toffee.
You don't want to see my feet, guys, after the sea soap down in Dartmoor, that organised by Walter.
So, Flea's told me that you're pretty good, or pretty tasty at trying to get the word out to create ways to connect with local men. How have you gone about approaching EHing or sharing about the stocks? What have been your ways that you've found success?
Yeah, I used to, my first job out of university was a door-to-door salesman for Virgin Media. So I do like to kind of think that I like to sell things, or whether that's ideas, or at that time, obviously it was products. And the basis really of selling things to people is communication and talking. And actually really, people that work in sales will know selling is not so much just about talking, it's actually about listening. And so it's listening to people, understanding what their needs are, and then tailoring what you've got to their needs. So in a very small way, I like to try and adopt some of that approach around talking to people about F3. Very often, if I talk to someone, I can be in a cafe, and I have been in a cafe, and we've got a local deli near us in Bramley, which is a very kind of pioneering local business that just won Uber Eats Restaurant of the Year award, and I'm in there all the time. It's called Silvers. If anybody's ever around Bramley and comes and does a BD, we can go in there afterwards for some breakfast. But I'm in there a lot, and while I'm waiting for my food, I just literally start talking to guys in there, and the staff know me and they kind of laugh because they know what I'm doing, and I'm trying to EH the guy that runs the place as well to get him to come, and I'll just lead with, oh, are you interested in exercise? You kind of look like you are, or are you interested in exercise? If they don't look like they are, I won't say that bit. Are you interested in kind of any exercise at all? And then just let people start talking, and usually get a bit of a story. They'll say, oh, I used to be and now I'm not, or yeah, I'm really interested in my exercise, or I could do it doing some, but I haven't got the motivation yet to get around to it. So just listen, let people talk, let them say what they want to say, and then the rest of the conversation just writes itself. It depends. If they've said whatever they've said, you just listen and react to what they've said. I think that goes through most things in life, but I think it's very easy for us to think we've got a product to sell, which is these free men's workouts and fellowship that goes with it, and leadership that goes with it. So I'm going to go and tell people about it. And I think people tend to switch off when you're just talking at them. I think we've had a lot of discussions in Yorkshire about, like, what do we put on a poster? What do we put on a flyer? What do we put on a Facebook group? There's a lot of Facebook promotion, Reddit promotion. so different parts of the internet we were trying to get to with the message. And I think we kind of landed on when you're doing some social media, you haven't got people's attention for a long time. You can't explain the principles, the credo, all that kind of stuff. So stick with a simple message. And I think one of our most simple message in Yorkshire is completely free men's boot camp. And that's the message I think we've led with on a lot of social media posts and things like that. And so if you're meeting guys in person, I think I wouldn't just walk up to a guy in his face and say, completely free men's boot camps. Although I think it'd be quite funny, and I might try it actually now that I've said it.
Worth a try.
Because they'd just be like, what? Obviously you can maybe follow it with something. But I think for me it's talking to people. I've got a background student union volunteering when I was at uni. So recruiting volunteers is an interesting pitch because you're trying to recruit people to give their time to do something for free. So I think the pitch there is, or the approach is kind of treat people like people, listen to them, see what their motivations are, and try to match the thing that you're offering them with their motivations.
We did have quite a concise pre-launch plan, didn't we, for the stocks? We did try and hit different angles and how do we cover off certain parts of the internet? How do we even get physical flyering out as well? And we did that shredder as well around West Leeds. Most successful or most reactions to the printouts were in nail salons and hairdressers. It's the M's that were noticing and commenting and saying, "Oh, that would be good for my
Very
husband."
good recruiters, aren't they?
Yeah, the kind of sat and almost brainstormed with a few of the packs, including Flea. Where can we put this message out? And as Flea said, kind of hairdressers, nail salons, kind of cafes, people where places are sat for a second, and they actually have time to look at a poster. And going into these places, it's a little bit nerve-wracking sometimes going in, saying, "Can I put a poster up?" And it's like, for what? And I think a lot of time people are putting a poster up. It's for a local fair. It's easy to explain. It's a local fair. What's your poster for? Oh, it's a free men's boot camp. So many questions. What do you mean it's free? Well, yeah, it's completely free. What's the catch? There is no catch. Men's boot camp. What do you mean by boot camp? Well, body weight, fitness, circuits, that kind of stuff. Where? How? What equipment do you need?
Can my wife come along?
Yeah, can my wife come along? Men only. What's that all about? Like, why is it against women? And answering all of that. Once you kind of cut through a lot of that stuff, like Flea said, going into the women's nail salons and women's hairdressers, they're like, yeah, I take that off you. I put that up, really keen to put it up, and a lot of feedback from women saying things like, "This is such a needed thing. This is such a good thing that you guys are doing. Men really need this now." So really, really positive feedback from women. At first, I wouldn't have thought to put a poster or a flyer up in a place that women are more likely to frequent, because I'm thinking, well, target market is men. But we got a lot of feedback, even from the guys in the group. Where did you see the message? Where did you see the message? A lot of the guys, I'm sure people will identify this across F3. It's the M's that have seen something on Facebook and they've said to the other half, yeah, you need to get your ass down to the park at 6 a.m. and do some working out. I think you identify with
that was the same a year ago. Yeah,
you've inspired me in this thing. I think I remember being told about the nail salon thing, and I've actually tried to sort of say to ladies, you are the best recruiters, and so that's why I'm trying to share something free on your group. Because Flea's been bigging you up on this, and actually it seems to have produced, which is encouraging actually, because I do think generally M's are at least 3 steps ahead. We're going to say 5 steps ahead in case they're listening. You're 5 steps ahead, and you're always right. But they get it, don't they? And they know, and they quite often go, no, you need to get out the door, and this is going to be good for you. Then it'll be good for us. Yeah.
I think also one of the things that I noticed talking to M's of guys that aren't in F3, and sometimes it's a conversation when the man is there, and sometimes they're not there. Some people want to go a bit deeper and ask a few more questions. And when that happens, I find myself talking about 30/30s, and moving into that space. And I think the thing that seems to resonate with a lot of women from the 30/30 perspective is hang on, you guys sit and have a discussion about something, and what kind of things. And I've talked about some of the discussions that we've had in Yorkshire, and one that stands just, there's been a few, but just one that stands out as a really good example of the power of a 30/30 and the power of F3. A discussion talking about the man's role in leadership in his family unit, and the breadth of the kind of what that discussion can cover. And some guys are probably sat there from a background maybe of leadership in work and things like that, thinking, yeah, this is usual stuff for me, but I can add to this discussion. And I'm sure there's some guys sat there thinking, I've never really thought about this kind of thing. Like, what leadership behaviors am I role modeling for my kids? And what does that mean? And what does that look like? And how can things be interpreted? And what's the impact on the children and things like that? What's the impact on the M? That, what's my impact in the family home as a man? And I think that's really powerful stuff for F3, to be kind of letting it known that these are kind of conversations that we're having. And when I've said some of that to potentially who have got men that might come to F3, their faces are just kind of a little bit shocked, but also like there's a wow, that's crazy. You guys are talking about that kind of stuff, but in a good way. Like, these are not conversations that wives or girlfriends are expecting men to be having when they go to the pub with their mates for a few beers, or they play football on a Sunday. And quite rightly, they're not the kind of conversations that really come up, but these are the kind of conversations that we have in F3, and other equally deep kind of topics. And for me, that's a really powerful draw. It's a little bit difficult to lead with that kind of stuff when you're just trying to get people through the door. But I think, if we maybe had some opportunities through testimonials or through social media posts to say, today we talked about this, and have eyes on that from the community, I'm sure there'd be other M's that don't just push their guys into F3 from a fitness perspective, go and get fit, but also push their guys in because it's like, actually, I would like my man to be a more consistent male presence in the home instead of maybe what I'm getting right now. So I think it's another aspect for us to think about in promoting F3.
When you're talking about promoting F3, the other thing you could also mention is the completely stupid and utterly pointless events that we put on. And it's perfect timing that you've come on to this episode, because you've just come back from one last weekend. Would you be able to give us some insights about what you did and how it went?
Yeah, fantastic event that I've just come back from, DSORP across Dartmoor, organised by Walter, who is Nantan. Really great event. Really grateful to Walter for putting the work in to organise it. I think, I don't want to offend anyone, I think I didn't know anybody when I turned up. So I might have met a couple of people at the Convergence, but the Convergence was a lot of guys, and I still count myself as quite new to F3 when I went to that Convergence. I was still kind of trying to remember the names of the guys in Yorkshire. So I turned up in Dartmoor on Friday night, and I don't know anyone, but actually I had no fear. I knew that I was going into a supportive group of people, and straight away the fellowship started, which means the beers were being poured at the bar and in the hotel. Straight away we got banter. Walter, who's organised it, who I'm told is kind of a bit of a stickler with his organisation, has apparently forgot to organise his own hotel room. So he's going to kill me now for dropping all the secrets, but they'll find their way out if I don't drop them. So Walter's done that, and Guardian's drawn the short straw, hosting Walter in his room, I think with a double bed that they shared, but it's fellowship, it's all fine. And just straight away, felt at home with the fellow packs and the brothers. And just what other organization can you be part of, and that just happens. You just I've traveled, I don't know how many hundreds of miles from Leeds down to Plymouth without really knowing what I'm getting myself into. The walk itself was absolutely fantastic. Dartmoor is a place I've never walked. I like to do a bit of walking, Peak District, Lake District, other parts of England, but never been to Dartmoor. Definitely kind of got its own vibe. Definitely some parts of it you kind of like, this could be Yorkshire, these views, those fields. I went through my own personal adversity. I'm doing the Valor event in November, and I'd never heard of rooking before the Valor event, but I've obviously heard of it now. Someone put, I think Concrete from the Midlands put a rook sack on the chat for Valor, so onto Amazon, bought the weight plate, 13.6 kg. Right, I'm going to take that rook, I'm going to fill it, I'm going to put some weight in it so I get some challenge on this. 3 hours into the walk, we set off at 8 o'clock, so by about 11 o'clock my hip is really hurting. I mean, really, really hurting, and I'm walking funny, and people are kind of like, "Are you okay, Toffee? Do you want to take some weight off? Do you want me to carry that? Do you need to stop?" And I'm kind of like, "No, I'll power through. I'll be fine." We walked for 12 hours that day. We got into our pub overnight stay at 8 o'clock that night. My feet were more blister than foot, certainly my left foot, which I was walking quite funny on. It was very painful blister. It was very painful walking on it all day. There are a few other funny bits and bobs, which I'm sure they'll find themselves into some kind of folklore at some point. But there's the famous only 5 kilometers left to go. Only 5 kilometers left to go at around I think maybe 3 or 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. We'll be there soon. We'll be there for 7. And then there's now there's 5.7 kilometers left to go. Hang on, this is going up, guys. We've got to call up the pub and we've got to put the time back. But don't worry, we only put it back half an hour. It's fine. Guys, we're calling up the pub again to put it back another hour. So maybe we're exaggerating a bit. Maybe I think it went back from 7 to 8 in the end result. And I think we probably got in at about 10 past 8 or something like that. But actually, it was a seesaw, a completely stupid and utterly pointless. And we pushed through a really tough kind of period as we started having those closing night hours coming in and the darkness closing in, and the head torches had to come out, which we didn't think we were going to have to bring out the head torches. Even probably at around 2 o'clock when we were resting in Tavistock, eating pasties, Cornish pasties, and think Bridge, one of the packs, was talking us through different telephone boxes, and we've got all that banter going on. He knows all about BT red telephone boxes, and there's the K2 and the K6, and I'm sure if anyone wants to know, he'll tell you all about it. And we spirits were high, and then we hit that adversity point, and packs were carrying other people's bags and things like that, and we really pulled together and pushed through that final bit. And I think that adversity actually made the trip. If it had been all plain sailing, we would have come away saying that was a really nice walk across Dartmoor. But second day, we hit the top of the moors, and there's a video that we've got, which hopefully you can put the link in, and we put a little video together, and you just see we kind of crest the top of this hill, and we're looking over, I think, Meldon Reservoir, and the clouds just beautiful in the sky, kind of nestling a couple of hills, and we just sit down and we just take a break and we eat some food, and we were all in awe of this beautiful view. And I think it's the culmination of the adversity, pushing through, climbing the ascent that day as well wasn't easy. We were all carrying blisters, we were all kind of in a bit of pain, but we pushed through, and we knew as well that the end was coming near, and so it's that was a climax of the trip, cresting that hill, and it was all downhill from there. It was a much shorter day on the second day, deliberately so that people could get back from work, and I think we had the benefit of nice weather. If it had been raining, that first day might have been really, really tough, tougher than it was. The second day might not have been as beautiful when we got to the top because of the views that we had. So we were looked down on with some fortune at that moment in time. But I think we deserved it for what we pushed through.
Fantastic. So a big shout out to the packs. I've got a list here of those who did go on it, and well done to you guys for plowing through the adversity and helping each other out on the tough walk. So we've got Toffee, Guardian, Paddle, Pushbike, Bridge, Sketch, Stables, Sharkbait, and Walter himself. So well done, guys.
Job. Not And you did that with your weight plate?
No,
I was going to say, that's fine. It was just a quick check in there.
Let me not put out false information. There was no 13.6 kg weight plate in there, but I think I will say lesson learned. I think I did stupidly have more weight than I needed, but once I had that, sometimes I'm a kind of a firm believer. Kind of if I've made that decision to take that weight, I will take it. If I didn't think I could have finished and I did need to hand off some of the weight to the other packs, I would have done it. And they were not shy about asking if they, do you want me to take the bag? Do you want to take something out the bag and share it? For me, it was a personal commitment. I'm going to carry. I brought this weight with me. I'm going to carry it for the duration of the event, and that's what I did.
I just wanted to check that out with you because when we did our CSUP from Walton to Westminster, I committed to take my weight plate on the walk, and all in my pack was something like somewhere between 23 and 25 kilos when I weighed it. And I hit a proper pain cave and doing essentially 50k. And I learned things too, like you need good underwear. Well, I didn't even have underwear on. I just had workout tights. Sorry, Darby. And I very bad chafing. So we're gonna have fun on this Valo event with our packs. It's gonna be great. Which I still think there's time for people to register if anybody's interested, even though it's a month. No, that's cool. I wanted to check that out because I was like, this man's as mad as I. So I was just thinking that's serious. Well done you. How are your blisters?
Where are we? So we're on. I think we're 4 days post CSUP. Day 1, luckily I took it off work and I couldn't walk. Day 2, started to walk a bit. Day 3, did a queue, deliberately designed a queue where I could basically stand and just do exercises. No running, no friction. Day 4, it's quite good today actually. Being out and about, bit of walking, the pain is gone, and I'm trying to keep my calluses so that when I get to the Valor event, I don't have to worry about foot care too much because I'll have some really nice beefy calluses to help see me through.
Yes. I'm road testing socks at the moment, so I've got my waterproof socks and I've done my 2-mile run in them with toed socks underneath because one of our packs is ex-French Foreign Legion and he'd said he recommends a bamboo sock under the waterproof sock, and that's what you change out because I noticed how much heat the waterproof socks retain when you're rucking. Sunday we had a 2-hour ruck in the park in Wimbledon Common, and I noticed my feet weren't wicking like they were because the waterproof socks keep it all in. So good.
Yeah, there seems to be there's a good discussion in the Valor group, isn't there, about the relative merits or demerits of waterproof sock / waterproof footwear combination versus none.
Yes.
So I think for me the jury's still out. I'm following the conversation in the group, and I think as you said, there's still time for people to join. Just if you're thinking about it, just join.
Yes.
Just get it done.
No, absolutely. Still join. So £1 million questions then. Tell us what's in your perfect cooked breakfast.
Perfect question. We had a cooked breakfast at the CSUP, and I banged on 2 bits of black pudding along with everything else on the plate. And then I finished the breakfast and I went back and got a few more. And so it's very clear black pudding is one of my perfect items for a cooked breakfast. So it's everything, but with black pudding, please. Love it.
Just to clarify for any non-British listeners, just go through that list of the items on a typical Toffee English breakfast.
Oh, typical. Is it a typical Toffee English breakfast or just typical?
Your breakfast. If you're ordering it, what would you have?
Sometimes I like to do like what I call the triple threat. So 3 of everything. We go 3 sausages, 3 fried eggs, 3 bits of bacon. Let's say 3 big spoons of beans, mushrooms, and load me up with black pudding. Proper cooked breakfast. What did I miss? Did I miss anything?
You missed hash browns, mate.
Oh,
Hash
do you know what?
browns are like You
I
need
give you hash
browns.
browns. Yeah, hash browns. Although when I'm doing, I like to do a little bit of a keto diet sometimes, which is, for people that don't know, is a very ultra low carb kind of situation. Hash browns are off the menu in that scenario,
But you give them to me though, don't you?
I have done in the past.
Yeah. Do you want my
But-
hash browns? Yes, I do.
Hash
Thank you.
browns or fried bread?
I'm a no to fried bread.
You're a no to fried bread.
Yeah,
I
empty
will
carb.
have one. Yeah, but
You,
I can't have it
you-
every fried breakfast.
you had me
Occasional.
at the black pudding, but I can think of better calories than the hash brown. I mean, it's potato, which is the god tier carb source. Part Irish and not like potatoes. Potatoes. But yeah, okay. I like that. Well done. 9 out of 10.
I'll take it. I'll take 9.
Excellent. So if we go back to the future and we've got the magical ability to go back as many years as you wish to a young Toffee, would there be anything that you would change in your life?
Love that you asked me a question about Back to the Future. Not only is it one of my favorite films, the date on the time machine in the DeLorean, that date is my birthday, 26th of October 1985. But love that film. Grew up watching it over and over, VHS from Blockbusters, Nan and Granddad's. Are you allowed to watch this film? Yeah, I am. Like 6 or 7-year-old. Honestly, I wouldn't change anything. I kind of feel like been through some highs, been through some lows, but it's all got me to where I am now. And I wouldn't be the person that I am now. I might not have grown in the way that I've grown, still got growing to do as well. I'm a little bit of a kind of like no regrets kind of person. What's happened has happened. And when people are going through a tough time, which I've been through, I just always try to say, like, in the future at some point you will be past this and you will be a stronger person because of it. And I know that right now that doesn't feel like it means a lot, but kind of you've got to have that hope for the future that you'll be in a different place in future. So that's my kind of take on it.
So if you could eat anyone, and you had the chance to name them, who and what?
Good choice. Good question. There's a few different ones, a few kind of, I think, ways I would go here. The honest way right now, if I could eat anyone, it would be Jack Grealish. So I think, obviously there's the Everton connection. I mean, obviously I'm in love with him at the moment for what he's doing for the boys in blue. My partner and her family are big Aston Villa fans, and you can imagine the banter in the family group. That's going on there because they still love him as well.
Yeah.
I think he's such I'm going to say like a lovable guy that there's not a lot of people that look at him and think, oh, I don't like that guy. Which when you're in the public gaze, it's very easy to kind of to generate that kind of vibe where people just don't like you for some weird reason. But I think imagine if we got Jack down to a BD or a few BDs, Free would take off and it would fly. Everyone wants him in the England team. He'd obviously be great. He'd be great at queuing a session. Jack Grealish, and I just would just like to be like, oh, this is my mate Jack. And I wonder what I haven't thought about this. What would his name be? What would we call him? Any ideas?
He's known for his thunderous sized calves, isn't he? So I think something along the lines of
Calf monster.
dairy farmer or something like that.
Dairy Queen.
Calf Udder.
Udders, yeah.
That's cool though.
Maybe people can think about it and let us know what his Jack Grealish's F3 name should be.
And the only people that don't like him really nowadays is Man City fans, but that's okay.
Do you know, to be fair to some of the City fans, obviously I watch a lot of the Everton YouTube, game summaries or, social media things that they put out on YouTube these days. You get a lot of Man City fans actually saying like they're really happy to see him flourishing at Everton. And I think that's such a lovely attitude to have, that you can see a player from your other team. And again, it comes back to what we were talking about before. I think it's easy for kind of people to hate on football a little bit. And we do get stupid with it sometimes. But actually, there's a lot of people in and around football with a really good heart in the right place.
Yeah, some players are really shaping or reshaping their communities with their money and not just sort of living somewhere out in Cheshire buying flash cars. They're giving it back. There's a guy I think in Senegal, maybe a Liverpool player, I'm not sure. But when I've read about how much he supports his world out there, it's phenomenal. Because he knows he's not going to be making that money forever. But he's just giving back and giving back. And I'm like, wow, that's worth it. I would laud people like that.
So, AOQs, Weasel Shakers, this is a call out to you. When you do get any FNGs joined, please let us know. We do want to give a shout out to those guys. So I'll do a quick roll call of who's joined us in the last couple of weeks. We've got Keeper at one of our newest AOs, Lightwater. We've got Alpine at the Way. We've got Scream at the Circuit. We've got Chafer and Forky at the Hall. And Zulu at the Weir. So, welcome home to you guys, and maybe see you around.
Welcome home. I'll meet Zulu in the morning, I hope. Good. We mentioned Valor a tiny bit earlier, just to say, less than 4 weeks. Packs that are coming. Well done for stepping up to go. Get working on your fitness test if you're not practicing hand release Merkins and the sit-ups. Maybe you probably nailed. Get some stamina going with those Merkins. Practice your 2-mile run and get your kit list. There's some organisation going where we're talking about sharing kit in terms of purchasing stuff. So make sure you're on point, because you know what, those cadre love to penalise packs for infractions on the kit list, and we don't want. I watched a GT recently where I think they had something like 13 measures before they started, and it looked like they were doing 130 burpees, and I'm not sure that's the best way to start an epic event like that. So be on it, boys. Be on it. We'll lift each other up and take each other through it. Let's be ready.
Superb. And final bit for me, really. Please share this podcast. I mean, we do put it out on Spotify, Apple, various other audio streaming platforms, but also on YouTube as well. So please share it. There were some shorts that we did with Gus that we put out to YouTube. They're now in the multiple thousands of watches and hits and views. So, some of this content's really getting out there and people are watching it. So again, please share it. Toffee Story is a great one. Again, it's great to show anyone that is considering coming for their first beatdown. Please share it. And the rest of the recordings we've done. We want it to be there to help you and to explain what we're about and explain Pax's stories with a view that, other guys may also benefit from it too. So please share it and get the content out there. Any final words from you, Toffee?
Final word from me. Thank you to you guys for running this podcast. I think can't be understated the kind of quiet leadership that it takes to do something like this, just setting it up. I know the work that probably goes into it. I've listened to, I think, pretty much every episode, and I'm sure a lot of other people have as well. The stories that you're getting out through this are just really inspirational. I think to people that are listening, just look for opportunities to do things, almost like give yourself permission to just step up and take the initiative. And that's the F3, way of doing things. And I've got guys in our recently set up stocks, and they're just starting to step up and do things on their own. And I think that's the spirit that we need in F3, and that's how we're going to grow F3 across the UK, into the other nations as soon as possible. That kind of almost pioneer spirit, let's take that from the Americans and kind of freedom and push forward. And so that's what I'd say.
Thank you. Seem to saying thank you a lot today, but I think we mean it. Thank you to you, and thank you to everybody else. We're just trying to kind of conduit you guys, give you space. So thank you for sharing from your heart and reflectively too, and thoughtfully. It's very much appreciated. Well, we're going to finish, right?
Do it. Go for it.
I'll do it then. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. We're gorgeous in 4K. We're not too bad on audio too. We'll see you in 2 Wednesdays' time for Story of Another Pax on the UK. Look forward to seeing you then. This is all from Cadence.
Bye.
Bye.